Hey guys, so this is just a little overview of my framework for morality before I get into the specific terms. Conceptualizing morality, how we make decisions, depends on clear terms and everyone being on the same page. You need to get your thoughts in order, and then you need to be able to maintain that clarity as things get more and more complicated. This requires a strong moral framework with flexibility for nuance. You need a firm grasp of the basics so that as things get more complicated, you can keep a handle on it and know what you actually think, know what you actually feel. My framework for morality is a combination of personal values and principles, mixing the emotional with the intellectual. And these two foundational components are further nuanced through standards and priorities. All right, sorry if this feels like school, but I wanted to include this picture for clarity's sake. So, values are emotion based, subjective, and self centered, and principles are logic based, objective, and society centered. Then, standards are the minimum quality required, and priorities are what is most important to us. So, values and principles are divided into emotional and subjective versus logical and objective because of the mechanism used to determine them. But you can have very logical reasons for your values, and you can have very emotional reasons for your principles. It's how these things are conceived of, how we choose and develop them, that I'm talking about here. And values are about the self, while principles are about society. But you can also have values that affect society and principles that affect individuals. But again, it's how we experience these things in life that I'm talking about. You like what you like. You want those things for yourself. But you don't have to make everyone else value the same things to be happy. But the unwritten rules in social settings only make you happy if others are treating you by the same principles you consider important. They're dependent on interaction with others. Values are personal, and we get unhappy when we can't fill our life with them. Principles are interpersonal, and we get unhappy when others don't share in what we think is fair and decent conduct. So, what this framework means, you'll notice that this could be used for someone who's a complete goody two-shoes or insanely twisted. There are no moral judgments within my framework, which is one of the reasons all the others I found lacking. This is a way to look at how you determine right from wrong without telling you what is right or wrong. It is neutral. Other frameworks so often include points about how kind you are, or how sensitive you are, or how logical you can be to overcome all your selfish emotions. Those are not what I was after. I don't think those are as helpful as this. I wanted a system that I could have completely open discussions about without putting moral judgments on anyone from the start. So I made my own. Values are what you want in your personal life to be happy. Principles are what you think would make the whole world a more fair and pleasant place for everyone. And standards and priorities are the extra layer of nuance. They affect all of your values and principles. How strongly do you have to follow something for it to count? And how do you choose one over the other if they conflict? Thanks for hanging in there for this picture. Now let's get back to normal, at least by my channel's standards. Standards, priorities, values, and principles guide how we come to conclusions. They determine how we figure out what is right or wrong in a situation. These four terms I consider the most important for discussing morality. If you have a disagreement with someone, it likely comes down to one of these four components. So being able to talk about these things can clear up so many misunderstandings. Communication becomes a whole lot easier when you have the right words and know how to use them. It keeps people from dismissing things as moral absolutes or insurmountable differences because it allows you to find common ground and pinpoint subtle differences. Because for most people, there's a lot more common ground than differences, and it often comes down to a matter of nuance. But in other videos I'm going to do later on, I also get into the topic of good versus evil and talk about why it's still crucial to have strict, well-defined definitions of good, bad, heroic, and evil. I don't ascribe to moral relativism. I have a very strong sense of what I consider right, what I consider moral, and I am very accepting of differences up to a specific, well-defined point. I'm also not into thought policing or censorship of creativity. I consider real world actions by real world people to be the primary concern. And I'm also not into going with the flow and doing what everyone else is doing because that usually doesn't work for me. I am not a mainstream conformist. Think what you want, create what you want, live your unique lifestyle that works for you. But at the end of the day, how you treat others and how you allow others to treat you is what matters most. There are some extreme exceptions where I think certain opinions and art can indicate a huge risk to immoral acts, like huge red flags. But my focus with this morality series is what you do and how your behavior reflects your beliefs. One of the biggest impacts of using my 4 things, the standards, priorities, values, and principles, is that you can look at any situation and pretty quick you can tell if someone is being inconsistent. You can see if their actions, their words are not living up to what they say they are. I've been able to more easily see when people do not follow their own principles, when they go against their own values. I think there are a lot of people who have no idea what their values or principles really are, and it comes out in their actions. It comes out in the way that they speak because there is no consistency. Being able to explain what your morality is also forces you to live by it. If you know the details and the nuances of how you determine right from wrong, you can look at every situation from those 4 things. You can apply them to any situation and you will instantly be able to see where there are incongruencies, where someone is not actually keeping their argument consistent. So keep an eye out for my videos on the basics of morality, at least the way I think about it, because this morality series is going to set the foundation for a lot of my thoughts on life, art, stories, film, and relationships. This is how I've structured my moral framework because it makes sense to me. It helps me articulate how I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, and it helps me communicate with others. So this is just a quick overview to help me organize my thoughts. If even this little video helped you, let me know. If not, hopefully the more detailed videos will be more helpful. All right, that's it. Bye, guys.